Hey you guys, it's Natalie Hoffman with flyingfreenow.com, and I'm here in Minnesota and the weather is amazing. I'm a Norwegian and I love when it cools off. Yesterday I'm hoping it was the last hot, nasty day of the year, and we just had a cold front move in and it's in the 50s right now and it's absolutely fabulous. So I took a walk this morning and I'm sitting out here in my yard and I'm going to answer some of your questions. I thought I'd try something new and I actually posted a little Facebook post earlier this morning. Hi, Wendy. And asked you guys to drop some of your questions in. I thought, why not just answer some of your specific questions? Now, here's the problem with doing that. I know many of you don't want necessarily to be seen on Facebook asking questions about about emotional or spiritual abuse. Maybe spiritual abuse is okay, but not emotional abuse. You don't want anyone to know that you're wondering about things like that. So I noticed that a lot of the questions were more related to other people. So I thought you guys had some great ideas for a topic to talk about though. And because not so many, we only got a few questions, but because the questions were mostly about how to help other people, that's what we're going to talk about. And I think that what I'm going to share with you today is going to help you as well. All right. So one of the ladies wanted to know, how do I help my sister who's in a spiritually abusive situation? Another person asked, how do I help my kids avoid becoming a victim of being a partner with an emotionally abusive person? And then another person asked, how do I support someone, or how do I help someone who's in women who are in emotionally abusive relationships, but they have this really strong belief that they just, need to be there, that it's the woman's place to be in an abusive relationship, and that's part of her Christian duty and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to talk about that. One of the things and I'll share just a little bit of my own personal experience. Some of you know, I was excommunicated from my church when I finally got out of my abusive marriage. But one of the people that helped me the most was my sister. And she spent those 3 years with me just listening to me, and every day, because she actually worked for me, she would come to my house and we would wrap soap and package orders together, and she would listen to me talk about what was going on. And those were hellish days, you guys. So getting out is not a picnic. It's the worst thing I've ever gone through in my entire life, and that includes going through the death of a baby, and it includes going through the death of my dad. So, and it just goes on and on and on. So if you know of anyone who's gone through this and you haven't, just know that what they're going through is pure evil and pure hell. So they do need help and support. But what they need they don't need a bossy pants in their life. And my sister was not a bossy pants. She just was a listener. She just listened and she saw me. I just needed someone to actually see me as a real person with real feelings and real experiences. I needed someone to believe what I was saying, instead of to constantly, what I was getting from everybody else was minimizing. Oh, that's no big deal. Oh, you're not really going through that much. Oh, I have a hard time picking up my husband's socks too off of the floor. Just ridiculous comparisons to what I was going through. And they weren't really hearing what I was trying to say. And so she did. And she believed me and she saw it firsthand. And that's what we need to do for other people. When they tell us what they're going through, we need to listen to them, but we don't tell them what to do. In fact, what abuse victims need the most is they need to be empowered to make their own decisions. They need to be empowered to see that they are adults now. They're not children. They're not children with a daddy. They're not children with a mommy. They're adults. And God put them in charge of their own lives. Now that doesn't mean that they go around and control other people either. Okay, but it does mean that they absolutely control themselves in their own lives. And to the degree that they're not doing that is the degree that they are actually under somebody else's thumb and being controlled by someone else. And that is not the way that God set up healthy relationships to operate. So healthy relationships are a healthy marriage relationship would be two people who are whole and complete all by their own selves, and they come together in mutuality, and they support and love one another. They don't control one another, and they don't try to we don't try to make other people believe what we believe, do what we think they should do, see things the way that we see them, have our perspectives. That's not what we do. And we can do that, even those of us who aren't abusive people and have chronic abusive behaviors, we can still tend to want to control other people. And the reason we do that is because it makes us feel better. If we can control them. And also, and here's the other thing too. You might want to help someone in their abusive relationship, because then they'll be happy, and then you can feel better about their life. And we feel better if other people that we love are happy, then we feel better. I know this as a mom. When my kids are happy, I feel great. And when they're unhappy, I feel bad. And when they're unhappy, I look at all the things that they're doing and I think, oh, I know if they just changed this, this, and this about their lives, then they would be happy. And then I could be happy too. And that's not a healthy perspective. Okay? Everybody, our kids and our friends and our brothers and sisters and all the peoples, they all have to decide for themselves how they want to live their lives. And you know what? They're going to be unhappy sometimes, and that's okay. People can be unhappy. We're going to be unhappy sometimes, and that's okay. Life isn't all a bed of roses, and it's not supposed to be. That's not the human experience. All right, so that might sound depressing to some of you, but actually when we fight against that and resist that and try to make that different from what it really is, that's when we bring suffering into our lives. When we accept that, and when we allow those emotions to be in our lives, and we allow the fact that life is sometimes going to be painful, that's when we actually relieve some of that pressure in ourselves, and relieves the pressure in us to change other people. So first of all, then, love listens, okay, and it sees the other person. Secondly, we don't be bossy pants. Their life is theirs to live. And thirdly, we empower other people by being an example of what's possible for them, all right? So you be loving, you be accepting, you be the kind of person who can allow bad things to happen, and you don't fight or resist. I don't mean fighting or resisting abuse, okay? I just mean fighting or resisting reality, all right? So let me give an example. Let's say that your friend is in an abusive relationship and she doesn't want to get out. You might be tempted to say, hey, I know that you're in an abusive relationship, and here's all the signs that you're experiencing, and it's A, B, C, D, and E, and if you do F, G, and KQY, then you can get out and you can be free. And she might look at you and go, who the HE double toothpicks do you think you are? I don't know what you're talking about. I like my life, and sure, he's difficult to live with, but this is the way I want it to be. And you know what? She gets to make that choice. She gets to live in that relationship, okay? Now, if she doesn't like the relationship and she's complaining to you about it on a regular basis, but she doesn't want to hear any of your solutions to it or any of the options that you have for her, she doesn't have to listen to you shouldn't give them to her then. She doesn't want to hear them. But here's what you could say. You could say, I hear you. I can see that you're in a lot of pain. And I just want you to know that I'm praying for you, and I'm always here. If you want to download on me, that's totally fine. I do have some great books. If you ever want to look into this further, I've got some ideas for you. I've got some great websites for you to look at. And I've got some great ideas for ways that you can get support and help and education in what you're going through. But you need to do that when you're ready. And if you're not ready now, then you're not ready, and that's okay. You guys, it's a long, long road for women to become ready to get out. Years. It takes years. I knew that I was in a dysfunctional relationship. I wouldn't have called it that from the very first year of my marriage. but it never, ever crossed my mind that getting out was an option. And even if someone had told me, I would have shut them down right away, and I was not open to it. So that's okay. Everyone is on their own timetable. Here's the thing. If we really think that we can trust God, like, oh, trust God. What about us? How about if we trust God? How about if we trust the Holy Spirit to know when it's the right timing for somebody? How about if we trust that God is powerful enough to lay it on someone's heart to get that woman and start to open up her eyes slowly? You know, waking up is it's one of the most excruciating things that she'll ever go through in her life, waking up to abuse. Do we really want to slam her down on the concrete floor when she wakes up? No, you don't want to do that. And sometimes she will wake up that way. But more often, she wakes up and she falls out of cloud 9, as Katy Perry says, a little more slowly. Her fall is a little more slow and it's a little more gentle, still painful, but she knocks around on a few branches before she actually hits the pavement. And I kind of like that way of falling anyways. All right, still horribly painful, but it's better than falling splat on the concrete and all of a sudden you're wide awake. Gotta go listen to that song by Katy Perry if you haven't heard it. All right, here's the thing. If you are gentle with them, then guess who's going to be the person that they go to when they're finally ready to get answers? They're going to go to the safe person. They're not going to go to all of the bossy pants who gave them lectures. And trust me, there are plenty of Christian bossy pants out there. All right, don't be that person. Be the safe person that they know they can come to when they can't take it anymore. And then as far as helping kids, I think telling kids or women, the biggest thing to look for in a pathological relationship is the other person able to take responsibility for their behavior? And because if they can't do that, if every time they do something that is a little bit off base or even just hurtful and painful, and you call it out on them, if they blame you, minimize it, justify it, turn the tables on you and tell you all the bad things about you, that right there, that is not just a red flag. That's like a battleship with 5 million red flags waving and saying, I'm gonna bomb you to pieces if you don't get out of my way. That's what that is. And then it's up to the person who's experiencing that to say, you know what, I will take responsibility for my behavior, but I am never going to take responsibility for anybody else's. And here's what you need. Here's what your kids need. Here's what you can do to help your kids. Because when they're in the middle of their relationship and they are crazy in love, think they're crazy in love and they're infatuated and they're in that honeymoon stage. When they start to experience those things, they're going to not want to believe that what they're experiencing is abusive. They're going to want to make excuses for it. And if you are there going, oh, it's so bad, you got to get out. It's so bad, you got to get out. They're going to actually do the opposite of what you're telling them to do. So it's not a good idea to be bossy pants with your older kids either. But it is a good idea to say, hey, there's some things, tell me how you feel when he does this to you. How does that make you feel? And start to ask them questions so that they can talk about how they feel. This is something that we do. I teach, I've gone through training, I'm certified through the life coach school. And one of the things that we learn, and one of the things I do in my coaching and Flying Free now, is we learn this thing called the model. And you can apply the model to absolutely every single circumstance of your life. So you would just walk through with your kids how they're feeling. And because how they're feeling, it's what they're thinking about that's causing them to feel a certain way. It's not the circumstance. It's not what the boy said to them. It's what they're thinking about what the boy said to them that's causing them to feel a certain way. So you want to get them to, and they don't want to know what they're thinking. They don't want to know what they're thinking because what they're thinking is going to, it's going to uncover the truth. It doesn't always uncover the truth, but it'll get closer to the truth. So just dig down and find out, what did you think when he said that? How did that make you feel? What did you do when you felt that way? What did you do? What actions did you take? And then when you took those actions, what was the result that you got in your life? Those are the kinds of conversations that you want to be having with them. And so that rather than you telling them what to do, you're actually helping them to see for themselves what they need to do to protect themselves to get better results in their lives, okay? So you want to train them and equip them to be badass kids, to be the kinds of kids who know that they are whole and complete by themselves. They don't need another, oh, I'm starting to shiver. They don't need another person to be whole and complete. And if they need help with counseling or a therapist, then get them into counseling so that they can, but eventually what's going to happen is they're going to experience so much pain in that relationship that they're going to start looking for help, because nobody likes to feel icky. Everyone, when we feel pain, that's when we start to get to the end of ourselves, when we start realizing this is a deep, dark pit and I don't want to be here anymore. I got to get out somehow. That's when you have an inroad into someone's life to be able to say, I see you. I'm here with you in this pit, and there's a ladder out. Would you be interested in taking the first step out of this pit? It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt so bad. But you know what? I'm here. And if you can allow some of those feelings of pain in your life, I know you can, then you can get out and you can get to a better place where you're not in so much pain anymore. So that's all I have for you today. I'm freezing to death, so I'm going to go inside. I love being cold, but I should have worn a jacket out here. I thought a sweatshirt would be enough. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening. And I just want to let you know, too, that the Flying Free Sisterhood is only open every 6 months, and it's opening up October 1st. So if you're not on my mailing list and you want, well, first of all, you can get on my regular mailing list, which is just at the top of my website, flyingfreenow.com. And I will send you the podcast episode every week that I publish. I interview experts and I interview other survivors, and I talk with other women who are badass women who have gotten out, and we have conversations all about these kinds of things on the podcast. I try to write an article once a week, but I usually only get maybe once every other week. And then, of course, I share this little live video on YouTube. But if you want to get on the waiting list for the Flying Free Sisterhood, that is my flagship program where I actually take women from point A to point B in their lives, or to point C, or point G, or whatever point they want to go to. I can take them there, because I know so many women are tired of being in the same place, spinning around in the same exact circles, and they think that if they can get their circumstances to change, that they can actually move forward. And that's not how it works. We don't get our circumstances don't change. We change. So I teach women how to change themselves, how to change their whole mindset so that they can actually move themselves forward. No more being stuck. We want you to fly free. That's why it's called Flying Free. So you can go to the waiting list. You can find out all the details at joinflyingfree.com. October 1st, that's when it's opening up. And I'm going to be sending out several bonuses and sample things and extra things to that waiting list that I don't send out to anybody else. So if you want those things, go over there and get on the waiting list. That's all I have for you today. Fly free.